let's be real, objectively, the Shadowlands storyline wasn't all that good. Sure, some like it, some think it was the worst thing ever, but generally, the opinion is that it was really lackluster. The storyline led nowhere, the expansion seemed like it was abandoned halfway through, and overall, the crazy Puppet Master thing was just so over the top and just really damaged the entire Warcraft storyline because this jailer guy was behind everyone. Now, with Dragonflight out, a lot of people are naturally skeptical, but luckily, Blizzard did a bunch of interviews, especially lately, and they addressed the changes, how Dragonflight will be different, and what we had learned from the Shadowlands and what will be coming further. So, what are the good and the bad things, and is Dragonflight really going to be all that different? If you're looking for cheap games at amazing prices, check out this video sponsor, Gamivo. You can get everything from games to software, gift cards, and even get World of Warcraft game time and Dragonflight. You can get an even bigger discount with my code Doron, so make sure to click the link in the description below. So, as Dragonflight is just releasing, rightfully so, many of us are worried and they're just going to mess it up and that this is going to be the new Shadowlands, because Shadowlands was promising when they announced it. I mean, sure, there were some early signs the Shadowlands storyline might not be the best, especially with how crazy, powerful, and important Sylvanas was, but before the expansion release and just as they released the lore, it was actually super promising, like it was potentially going to be a pretty good storyline. Now, I made a bunch of videos with speculations based on the hints that Blizzard gave us, and it just seemed like they decided to drop the entire expansion halfway through, and the storyline just kind of led nowhere, like literally nothing happened. So while there is some pessimism, it is only natural that people are wondering what Blizzard is planning to do in the new expansion, and why should you even play the game? I mean, if you're like burnt once or twice, you're obviously going to be more careful the next time. Now, some good news is, while there's obviously, still a bit of ignorance from Blizzard, they have actually come out and they did a bunch of interviews where they talked about how Dragonflight is going to be different and what we could be expecting, and there are some good and there is some bad news. The bad news is that Blizzard never really acknowledged that Shadowlands was lame. I mean, I understand, they can't just outright come out and say it a bunch of interviews, but they're constantly just defensive about it. I mean, personally, I would really appreciate if they were just out in the open, if they just said, we messed up a bit with the story, the release schedule, there were some internal issues, but we're going to make up for it, like we messed up, but we're going to do better. From the interviews that you've seen, the development side that is in charge for the gameplay part of the game is more like this, but narrative one, definitely not so much. However, they did still talk about making changes, how Dragonflight is going to be different from Shadowlands, and we can also already see that based on the expansion being out and the alpha and the beta, so objectively, it really is not the same as the Shadowlands. The main and the most important thing is that we really are going back to Azeroth and that we're getting to that more mysterious champion, adventure, classic Warcraft feel where it's all about discovery. At the moment, this isn't really just Blizzard tooting their own horn and giving us false promises, but they actually are right. A bunch of cosmological stuff is happening. There are crazy hints all over the place, but it does seem like most of the expansion will be us battling local enemies that are motivated or controlled by these higher beings, and this really is as World of Warcraft as it gets. They're creating new villains and seemingly interesting ones as well, but these villains are not like world destroyers that manipulated Sargeras and that destroyed like half the universe. I mean, this was literally how every single expansion was until recently. We were constantly battling the Legion until we finally faced them. In Northrend there was the Lich King, but also the Old Gods, and we were mainly just fighting regular enemies and these like local villains, while the cosmological crazies like the Titans or the Void Lords or whatever just kind of remained as an echo, something mysterious, something behind the scenes, something unreachable, but nonetheless there. This was the same, for example, just think about it, Mists of Pandaria. We had Yasharaj and his influence all over the continent. We had these crazy Shah that play on emotions, the Heart, the Mantid in their culture, but we never just revived Yasharaj and decided to just blast him into space with a crazy superhero weapon. Well, that changed with BFA when we literally did just that with N'Zoth, and it got literally absorbed with the Jailer and the Puppet Master behind the Puppet Master behind the Puppet Master. Now Blizzard is unfortunately still continuing. They aren't retconning this stuff, but they 100% are settling it down a bit, like they're turning the notch to the other side. The next point ties into this as well. The good thing they are doing is they're bringing the classical villains back. There is a ton of old god stuff and just hints of them all over the Dragon Isles, with their minions, to the fact that Yogg-Saron corrupted Galakrond, to potential Primalist involvement, and just a bunch of other things. At the same time, the Titans are back, one of the biggest figures in the Warcraft universe, and now we are learning that we might have been lied to, that they haven't been telling the truth. And I gotta say, I am a bit skeptical about where they really are going with this, but I admit there's definitely some intrigue to the story. It could definitely be really interesting if they execute it right. Furthermore, what Blizzard is doing to make up for the storytelling is they're starting to make a bit more sense and just to think a bit more long-term. When you look back, Warcraft timeline is literally a mess. I mean, it's pretty much like the opposite of logical or a place that actually makes sense. It was like every expansion is like 1 year, and literally in the span of like a decade, we had like 5 major massive invasions, crazy wars, which is just, I mean, so ridiculous from a mortal perspective. I mean, just imagine living in Azeroth, you're getting invaded by the Legion, the Lich King, there's a cataclysm and all this crazy stuff. Now, they decided to do a 5-year time skip to actually create some space to make some sense, which really is excellent from a lore perspective. I only wish they actually made some physical changes to the world as well. A second point that ties into this is that they're starting to think a bit more about the older zones. They're talking about Night Elven renewal and what could be happening there with Darnassus. They're promising the return of Gilneas, which means they're thinking about solving a bunch of time-related issues that have been plaguing the lore pretty much since the start of World of Warcraft. However, if you push all that aside, overall the best thing they're doing is they're changing the distance from the Shadowlands and this crazy jailer guy, and in my opinion, this is like the #1 change I want him to make. Unfortunately though, this isn't just rainbows and sunshine, as in the recent interviews, I can't really tell you that they're doing like a 180-degree change, as now everything is going to be completely different. There are some bad news. There are some things I really don't like and that are not really all that excellent, but it's not really all that bad. So the first kind of minor thing, because this really is not, like, objectively this is not an important lore issue, but it's the fact that they don't really want to admit it. That annoys me. If you heard the recent interview about the Centaur retcon in DRAGONFLIGHT, they really don't want to admit, like, sorry, we're just retconning the story, like it didn't make sense. We thought this was a cool race, we wanted to introduce them, but instead they just seem to be doing circles of explaining but literally not saying anything. It essentially boils down to this, like the original lore, the Chronicle says the Centaur were created a few thousand years ago when a son of Cenarius and an elemental princess had children, and from this unholy union, the angry children, the Centaur, were born, which explained their aggressiveness and why they were so evil. Now, with the new lore, they're saying that this still happened, but apparently the Centaur are actually a native race to Azeroth. They existed thousands of years ago. They split into two, and the tame and the intelligent ones went to the Dragon Isles, while apparently the rest remained, like battled each other and led themselves to extinction. And apparently the version from the Chronicle, like the story I just told you, was like their revival or something like that. It definitely sounds kind of ridiculous when you think about it. The answer to that question was super unclear, as in they didn't really flesh out this answer. They didn't really think about this thoroughly. Now, as I said, this is definitely a really minor thing. I mean, who cares about the Centaur? But just because it is a minor thing, I really wish they just admitted it. Like, we decided to change it and that is all. We're sorry, we kind of messed it up, but let's fix it and we're not going to do it again. Another big thing they're doing is they don't really want to admit the Shadowlands flopped. In my opinion, I mean, this is understandable. You know, they can't just outright officially come out and say, but I really wish they kind of hinted at it a bit more, like if they admitted that there were some things wrong. I mean, I think we can objectively say that the Jailer storyline really didn't hit the mark, like literally by whatever metric you want to take. I mean, sure, people in the community are negative about most things, whatever they do, but literally, I don't think there is a single positive reaction to the story ending. I'm pretty sure, like, whatever internal metrics they have, they could confirm this. Like, the Jailer was really not that well received. So, as I said, I know they can't just straight out say the Shadowlands didn't happen, we're just retconning this, but I wish they just said, we messed it up, we're going to do better, and yeah, that is about all there is to it. And the last kind of bad thing is about the Night Elves. Now, at the moment, it is obviously a bit too early to say because there really are big hints about the renewal, but like 5 years is literally all about Constantine destroying the Night Elves and promising them something they don't ever end up getting. Right now, Malfurion is sacrificing himself, so they're losing once more, and the Night Elves seem to be kind of distancing themselves from the alliance with the most recent hints. really hope I'm proven wrong about this, because there are a ton of hints that they will finally get a satisfying ending, but really, who knows at this point? So overall, to be completely honest, things are definitely seeming optimistic. I mean, these bad things are just a few criticisms, but overall things are pretty optimistic. There are some really good potential storylines, but at the same time, some things are still kind of the same. It is entirely possible that Dragonflight could turn out to be a really excellent expansion, but really the only answer to this is going to just be time. How this story is going to unravel, how many patches are we going to get, and all that. And I really think it is going to be crucial for people to regain their trust for Blizzard if Dragonflight does right, and just for World of Warcraft to revive itself as a whole. Thank you for watching. Check out all the hints you missed in the recent Dragonflight cinematics by clicking on the screen, and check out Doronsmovies Academy for videos on real world history. See you next time.